then. I will take the girl to the entrance of the town and return. Yes, then. He said goodbye and left. He felt devastated that he couldn't break Ayla's curse, but he still wanted to say goodbye to her. When Cloud came out, Ayla was waiting for her, looking like she had rolled down a slope. Blood was flowing from a scratch on his cheek, and his knee was badly broken and looked very painful. Is it really necessary to go that far? Cloud frowned at the injuries and asked Capella, finding it hard to believe they were all intentional. Capella glared at his younger brother, saying he only did it because it was necessary. It was the same expression he wore whenever he showed unnecessary compassion for Ayla. And Ayla, who had indeed been wounded, felt no pain. This was because he had not yet recovered from the shock of having to skip the ritual to break the curse. Miss, come. Cloud placed Ayla in the chair and climbed in behind her. It looked like they would ride towards the village. They rode along the forest path in silence. When they reached a place where the lights of the village could be seen in the distance, he lifted Ayla into his arms and helped her off the horse. Cloud met the gaze of a girl watching him in the dark. When they met, the girl was so small that she barely reached his knees. How the hell had he grown so much that he was now at eye level with her? The guilt of having committed an unforgivable sin against this girl tormented him all those years. I'll do something about the curse. So don't worry, miss. You? What are you going to do? Once I get home, you won't be able to contact me properly without going through Laura. Opening her mouth with difficulty, Ayla snorted. After returning to the dukedom in her past life, she did not see Cloud again, not even once, until the moment of her death. Only then did he realize the blind spot in his words and made an oops face. Ayla chuckled at the absurd sight and reaffirmed her resolve. At first, he felt panic. She feared she would have to continue living with her life in Byron's hands. But as he rode through the dark forest, the fear faded. Until now, she was alone, but now she would have strong parents by her side just by existing. Things like curses didn't matter. I will find my own way to survive, so you. Ayla looked at the man in front of her. He had been his enemy, but now he was on his side. If you want my forgiveness. On the day we plan to attack the Duke of Weishafen, reveal the truth and surrender. Then I will take responsibility and spare Laura's life. With that, he walked towards the village, not looking back at Cloud. Although her knees ached from the rock Capella had thrown at her, Ayla limped steadily toward the light. Now it was time to go home. Einsnet, a small village nestled on the outskirts of the Herslik estate, was a quiet town. The small village, with just a few houses, consisted of a small warehouse, a blacksmith's shop, a mill and an old inn, and thanks to this, the villagers were so close that they knew how many spoons the house next door had. Within a few years, a commotion broke out in that small town. One morning, a young girl who looked like she was 13 or 14 years old appeared in town covered in wounds. When the guard sent to protect the town discovered the girl, he had to rub his eyes several times to make sure he didn't see a ghost. It had been 3 years since he had been sent to this quiet town, and no incident had occurred during that time, so he had gotten used to it. And then the guard, realizing that he was not hallucinating, screamed and woke up the whole town, and the quiet town became noisy. Do you know that weirdo who built a cabin on that mountain and lived there? You used to stop by the store sometimes, right? It's your daughter. Apparently, some bandits entered and killed the husband and wife, leaving only the daughter alive. Oh, you mean Scott? Died. But I don't think I've heard that he has a daughter. He was such a quiet person. I thought I couldn't speak. I only heard his name 5 years after we met. While Arbo, a village blacksmith, grumbled in discontent, several men around him murmured in agreement. Scott was so alert and sharp-tongued that he yelled at the villagers who approached him every time he came into town. Gentlemen, be quiet. The girl hears. Last night he lost his parents. When Griselda, the miller, pointed angrily at the crying girl, the men in town who had been talking about how unsociable Scott was suddenly fell silent, as if their mouths had been glued together. They weren't people so lacking in empathy that they wouldn't feel sorry for a girl who had gone through such a difficult time. "Well? How did you escape?" the guard asked, scratching his head. He contacted the man, but felt he needed to hear the situation before receiving further instructions, so he sat the girl down and conducted something resembling an interrogation. "My mother hid me under the bed. I barely escaped from the house after the bandits burned it down and left." The girl, Ayla, began to cry and tell the story of the previous night. Of course, it was only according to Byron's script, not the actual performance. Still, perhaps because I had already performed on stage in a past life, it wasn't that difficult. The villagers surrounding her and watching her clicked their tongues. Some even shed tears of pity. And soon after, the city was once again in uproar. The Lord, Baron Herzig, personally visited Einsnit. After learning the exact location of the house from Ayla, the Baron sent guards to investigate. He even took the poor lost girl to his castle. He is still a good person. Watching Baron Herzig lift a commoner, drenched in watery soup, into his carriage, Ayla briefly recalled the past. This was also a flow the same as his previous life. Soon, the carriage carrying her arrived at the Lord's residence. Baron Herzig's family was not particularly wealthy, so even his castle was not particularly grand. They had few servants, so even the Baron's wife and daughter had to help with household chores. Byron had chosen this town because Baron Herzig's stubborn nature allowed him to manipulate it to his whim, but Ayla didn't think it was a bad choice. Because poor Baron Herzig would receive a reward for finding Ayla. And there, Ayla was able to reunite with one of the people who had been missing. Lisa. It was the Baron's daughter, Lisa Herzig, who had entered the ducal household with Ayla and become his maid. Unlike Laura, she was a maiden who truly cared for her and was also Ayla's closest companion during the 2 years she lived as a princess. Therefore, Laura, unable to brainwash Ayla, found herself in trouble and had to return to her hometown, the Herzig estate, after framing Lisa as a thief. Stealing the master's jewel was a serious crime, but since Baron Herzig was the one who helped find Ayla, the incident was covered up and she was sent back. "And this time I will protect Lisa too." Just as she had secretly removed Scott and Debbie from Byron's care, Ayla was determined to protect Lisa from being ousted by Laura's plot. Because the time she met Lisa had come earlier, she seemed a little younger than Ayla remembered, but she was still happy to see that her auburn hair was braided and had a large ribbon tied to it, not unlike her memory. His father's kind, sad eyes, and bright smile were just as he remembered them. But Ayla fought the urge to pretend to know. There must have been Byron monitoring somewhere around here, and Lisa would have been nervous if a girl she'd never met before suddenly started pretending to know her. "Hello, I'm Lisa Herzig. What is your name?" Lisa smiled fondly and asked Ayla's name. "My name is Ayla, miss." He bowed slightly to Lisa, bowing slightly to his knees. This would soon be reversed if it was discovered that Ayla was the long-lost daughter of the Duke of Weishafen, but now it was Lisa who was the noble daughter, and she was an orphan of commoner origin. "I heard you've been through something tragic. I don't know how long you will stay with us, but I hope you are at peace while you are here. Let's get along. After all, we don't get along that much." Lisa squeezed Ayla's charcoal-covered hand and spoke. It was something no noble lady would ever do. "Thank you, miss." Lisa's hands were warm, and her cheerful smile put Ayla at ease. A few days passed in the blink of an eye in Baron Herzig's mansion. During that time, she had been doing odd jobs with the servants, but her life was incomparably more comfortable than when Laura was taking care of her. Today, as always, Ayla was helping with preparing vegetables in the kitchen. "Ayla, the Lord is looking for you." The mansion's concierge came to the kitchen and relayed Baron Herzog's call. It seemed that the time had finally come.